All right, guys, so we are on section 4.2, and this is the class opener. We are practicing writing equations in slope-intercept form. It's really easy if they give you the slope and the y-intercept, right? All you have to do is plug in your m and your b, and you'll be ready to go. So on number one, what would the equation be? All right, guys, this is not rocket science, and if you're not getting this right, you should, slap yourself and wake up, because all you need to know is your slope and your y-intercept and plug them in accordingly into y equals mx plus b. So let me even color code it for you, right? Y equals mx plus b. If you know your blue m and your red b, you plug it in right there and you're done. So what is the blue m? What's the slope? Ladies and gentlemen, don't go with the fraction. Even though slope is a fraction. But look, it says right here, slope is 1. And the red is the b value, which is the y-intercept. And they're telling you that the line crosses the y-axis. That means that this is your b. Okay, so please pay attention to what you're reading. So the b value is -3/2. The m value is 1. So it's really y equals, you could put the 1 for slope if you want. You don't have to. X plus b, that would be a -3/2. So I put this question here on purpose just to see if you pay attention to what you actually read. But it is that simple. You plug in the m, you plug in the b, you have your equation. Those are the two things that you need to write any equation. You need an m, you need a b, and you're good to go. Now, I threw some other equations or sentences here that are a little more creative. The line is horizontal. What does that mean, horizontal? It's flat, right? It's not steep at all. It's the opposite of vertical. Okay, that's true. So, and it passes through the coordinate 3, 4. So if you're like, I don't know what's going on here, you might as well do a sketch. And let's say, okay, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 on the x, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the y. And we say that it's a horizontal line passing through that point, 3, 4. So it's like this, right? So what kind of line, what kind of equation would produce a horizontal line? An x equals or a y equals? A y equals, and where does it cross the y-axis? At 4. So you would say y equals 4. And that's it. Okay? How about number 3? The line is vertical and passes through -2, 5. If you're confused, go ahead and sketch it. So -2 on the x, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's way up here, -2, 5. And it's a vertical line. What does that mean? Up and down. So there's a vertical line going right through that value. Right through that coordinate, -2, 5. So what is the equation of a vertical line? It's x equals, not y equals, right? So this one's x equals what? X equals what? -2, because it crosses the x-axis at -2. These are easy problems that are going to pop up throughout the rest of your graphing lives, right? If it's a horizontal line, it'll be y equals a number. If it's a vertical line, it'll be x equals a number. Number 4, write the equation of the line. Well, first of all, what do we need? What are the two things that we need to write an equation of a line? The m and the b. If I knew my m and I knew my b, I'd be ready to write my equation in y equals mx plus b form. So looking at that graph right there, could you see the m? Yeah, they give it to you. They actually give it to you, right? They say m is -3. I mean, you could say, okay, I want to count from this nice point to the next nice point that I see, right? And you would be going down 1, 2, 3. That's why it's -3 over 1. -3 over 1 is just -3. They give you the slope. How easy is that, right? So the slope is -3. And the b value is what? 1. B value is where it crosses the y-axis. Here's the y-axis. It crosses right here at the value of 1. Now they give you another point, -1, 4. But that's all you really need, m and b. And now you're ready to write the equation. Y equals -3x plus b, which is +1 in this case. There's your equation. Let's move on to number 5. Finally get to some fun questions here. The line passes through that point and has the slope 2. So we need two things to write an equation. What are the two things that we need? The slope and the y-intercept. We need the m, which we know is 2, and we need the b, which we don't know yet. I need to find that b. How am I going to find the b? I take what they give me and substitute, plug it in. So they give me an x value, a y value, and this m value over here. So before we plug in, let me just show what we're plugging it into. Y equals mx plus b. And yes, we're plugging in the -2 value for y. So that's going to be -2 equals, we're going to plug in the 2 for m right in here. So we're going to have 2 times x. And what is x? -3. Plug in -3 right there. And of course, we have the plus b. And again, I want to remind you guys, it's important that you use parentheses when you put the x in there. If you don't want to use parentheses, that's fine, but make sure you put a multiplication dot between the two. So you could just put a multiplication dot instead of the parentheses. But you need to have something there to remind you that you're multiplying, not subtracting. Anyhow, let's multiply. 2 times -3, that's -6. Bring down the plus b, bring down the equal, bring down the -2. I need to get rid of that -6. So what do? Plus 6. Plus 6. My final answer will be 4 equals b. So b equals 4. Now that I know my m value and my b value, now I could write my y equals mx plus b form equation. My m was 2, my b was 4. There it is. Y equals 2x plus 4. That's my equation that passes through the coordinate -3, -2, and has a slope 2. If I were to actually graph this, it will cross through that location on the xy plane. And for the most fun type of question, it's like 6 and 7, where they want you to write the line that passes through those 2 points. And of course, you need both the m value and the b value. However, they don't give you any of those. Or do they? Do they give you an m or a b? They give you an m. Okay. So how do they give us the m? I don't see m right there anywhere. You could do the slope formula, right? So you could say m equals division, subtraction, and remember it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This we have to have memorized. And when you apply this formula, do the division first, then the subtractions. Make sure you label xy, xy, 1, 1, 2, 2. So what's on the top left? What's y2? What's y2? 6. Davian, what's y1?
Y1 is 4.
4. How about x2?
X2 is 0.
x1? -2. The minus minus changes to plus plus. And up on top, 6 take away 4, that's just 2. And on the bottom, 0 plus 2 is also 2, which means that our slope is really what? 1. So slope is 1. We have half of what we need. We also need the b value, right? How do we find that b value? Substitute. You're going to substitute the m value that you just found and also one of these coordinates all into y equals mx plus b. So if you did plug in your m value of 1 right here where the m's at, and let's say we're going to use this first coordinate, and you could plug in your y value of 4, so you could have a 4 on the y, m was 1, times x, so you could put times instead of parentheses or parentheses, and x is -2, I'll do both times and parentheses, and then plus b at the very end. And now you could do the math to solve for b. However, I already know that my b value is 6 without doing any math. Why is that? Because if I take a look at this coordinate and I visualize that location, what would that location be? 0 on the x, 6 on the y. That means that it actually is on the y-axis, right? So this is actually your b value. What's your b value? 6. 0 on the x, 6 on the y, it crosses at 6. So I already know that my b value is 6. But if you want to work it out, that's fine. 1 times -2, that's -2, plus b equals 4. How do you get rid of that -2? By going plus 2 here, plus 2 over here. You will get your b value equaling 6. But you see, I already knew that. Why? Because I know that this coordinate right here is on the y-axis itself. 0 on the x, 6 on the y. So now that I know my m and my b, now I could write my slope-intercept form equation. Y equals what? 1x plus b, which is plus 6. And to be honest with you guys, you don't even need this 1. You could just erase it and say y equals x plus 6. But since we found it, I'll just leave it there. On the multiple choice, on the final exam, they'll probably just write it y equals x plus 6. They won't even bother writing the 1. For the last one here, the line that passes through those 2 points, neither of these points are on the y-axis, so neither of these points are the b value. So you're going to have to go through and do all of the work here. Let's begin. We have x, we have y, we have x, we have y. This is our first point. This is our second point. Let's write down our slope formula. M equals division subtraction. We know it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And when you plug it in, start with the division and the subtractions. The y2 value is up here, which is negative 2. The y1 value is 6. The x2 value is 3. And the x1 value is negative 1. The minus minus changes to plus plus. And up on top we have what? What's negative 2 take away 6? Negative 8. And on the bottom we have what? 4. And could we actually divide or reduce? Yeah, divide, right? What's negative 8 divided by 4? So m equals negative 2. We have half of what we need. We also need the b value, which we don't know yet. And how do we find that b value? We substitute everything that we know into y equals mx plus b to find b. So the question is, do you want to use the first point or the second point? Pick one. Albria, first or second, doesn't matter. First. Okay, so Albria wants to use this one. Let's use that one. So instead of y, what am I going to write? Okay, so let's write down 6 right there. Equals, instead of m, what am I going to write? Negative 2. So we have negative 2 right here times x. Instead of x, what am I going to write? Negative 1. So we put a negative 1 right there. And of course the plus b, you're going to leave it because we don't know b. That's the whole purpose of plugging everything in, so we could solve for b. So now we have an equation that we could actually solve, and we'll get the answer for b. So when I work through this, negative 2 times negative 1, that is positive 2. We still have the plus b. We still have the equal and the 6. And now I need to get that b by itself. I don't want that plus 2, so I'm going to subtract 2 and subtract 2. So my final b value will be b equaling 4. And now that I know my m, which is negative 2, I could say y equals mx, negative 2x plus b, and we know that b is a positive 4. So there's my slope-intercept form equation. It might seem like a lot of work. It might seem difficult. You're using all the skills that you've acquired before. I mean, the skill of finding the slope when given 2 points. You have to know the formula. If you don't know the formula, you're done, right? After that, you need to be able to take that m value and take one of the coordinates and plug it all into y equals mx plus b. That's another skill. And then after that, you take your m and your b, and then you plug them into your y equals mx plus b form to get your final equation. So it is a lot of work, but honestly, it gets easier and easier the more that you practice. If you don't practice, of course, it's going to get crazy, and you're going to fall behind. But if you practice, it'll get easier. And we are going to have a test on this next Friday, a week from today. So it's best that we start practicing.